Hello and welcome to this special edition of Discuss Nigeria on African Free Press Television. My name is Leo Oketa. This is really a special edition because why? Today is the country's Independence Day, and with me today in the studio to discuss some critical issues in the Nigerian polity. On my right is Mr. Tochukwu Okorie, who is a policy analyst and a public affairs commentator. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And on my left is Mr. Nnanna Oketa, who is a legal practitioner in Abuja and a former member of the Nigerian Youth Parliament. You're welcome to the show as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's always very interesting when we discuss Nigeria, and this time around, being Independence Day, we're taking on an important note. The other day, while in New York, President Muhammadu Buhari made a statement that he is going to take up the position of the Minister of Petroleum Resources and then appoint a Minister of State for Petroleum. And here with me this morning, we are going to take a look at the legal side of this as well as the political side, what this statement by the President means. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Nnanna. What are the legal implications on this statement by Mr. President?
To be clear, I would want to say that we'll just hope that the President doesn't take that step. Right now, we haven't seen the list. We do not know if the man that was appointed earlier on to take up that position, his name is on that list. But it will be unconstitutional for the President to decide to take up that ministerial position. Particularly Section 138 of the 1999 Constitution makes it clear that the President, while in office, during the pendency of his presidency, cannot take up any other executive position or paid employment. He is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, yes. He is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, charged with the duty and responsibility of appointing ministers, having regard to Section 147 of the 1999 Constitution and 14 sub 3, which makes it clear that the President must do so considering federal character, and that every minister, he must have to appoint a minister from each of the states, meaning that there will be at least 35 ministers appointed during the government. Now, he has the mandate to so do. I think Section 148 of the 1999 Constitution also enables him to be able to delegate some responsibilities to the Vice President and then to any of the ministers. But he cannot take up that position, because the question here is the office of the Petroleum Minister an executive position? Yes, it is. Is it a paid employment? Yes, it is. So the President, even though he hasn't done that, that's why I said let's believe that he wouldn't do that he just made an assertion. We saw that when former President Olusegun Obasanjo was in power. He did that, but I do not think that this particular section of the Constitution, I don't know if it had come in force at that time, but I'm well aware that nobody really tested it in the court of law at that time. But some of us would be ready to take that step if the President decides to do that, and then see how it goes. But let's commend him for his appointment of the GMD of NNPC. I think he appointed a very good chap who we believe will do a good job, and we believe he should go on making such appointments rather than take them up himself.
And then looking at the Constitution, just like Mr. Nnanna pointed, it is quite unconstitutional. But can we take it that that was a crafty statement from the President?
Yeah, I would like to toe the line that the lawyer had followed earlier to say that I believe the President was merely flying a kite. It was a declaration of intent, which, of course, in my view, cannot be tested in a court of law. It is the action, the giving vent to that intent by way of action, yes, that for me I will deem very serious. Without prejudice to the provisions of the Constitution and the laws of the Federal Republic, that is the relevant sections of the laws of Nigeria. Question is, I mean, for me, I know for one that one of the conditions of becoming for starters, how does a person become a minister in Nigeria? What does the law say about a person that must be appointed a minister? One of the conditions that I know, that I'm aware of, is that you must appear for clearance before the Senate. And my curiosity, running wild, will the president submit himself to senatorial screening, which is a stricto sensu, like the lawyers would say, a requirement of the law? All right. Now, that is on the one side. And taking that a little further, the question again is, in discharging the functions of the office of the Minister of Petroleum Resources, is there a morality question that comes up? And the answer is yes. Inasmuch as we have been made to believe that, that sector of the economy is both sensitive and also have been abused, and therefore requires some kind of overhaul. The challenge to me is, how is it that it's only President Buhari that has what it takes to overhaul that industry? And the third leg of that argument is that by implication, Buhari, in that statement, even though I know he is not going to give vent to that statement, I think he was just flying. I think he was just flying a kite. No. The thing is this.
Let's believe
the thing is that is it because we have had this. I mean, in 3 months waiting for for Buhari to form a cabinet, and the argument has been, the man is picking stones from the list, the way you pick stones from your local rice, separating the wheat from the chaff, for 3 months. And what he has said is that in 3 months, out of 170 million Nigerians, he is the only person that has that integrity that is required to run the petroleum industry in Nigeria. That is highly questionable.
If I might come in here, when you look at all the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has to do, when you look at his responsibilities, his functions, the international policy he has to address, the running of the government itself, and he also decides to appropriate the position of the petroleum minister into himself. I wonder how he will be able to cope with all that function. There's always room for delegation of authority. There's a reason he has a vice president. There's a reason why the Constitution makes it clear that there shall be ministers of the Federation who will serve in the Executive Council, helping him actualize his policies. There are reasons why these provisions were made, and there are reasons why he has to appoint ministers. So I think it will be out of place for the president to decide to take up this position himself, more so as the Constitution has clearly made it impossible for him to assume that position. Another question would be, if he also becomes the Minister of Petroleum, would he also be entitled to remuneration as the Minister of Petroleum? Of course he would be, if he decides to take up that position as well. That is the implication, except he says he is going to do that pro bono. But even if he does that, the Constitution also envisages the fact that the position of the Petroleum Minister is an executive position, which the President cannot, with all respect to the President, he cannot appropriate that position to himself.
That's very okay to hear, but if you just joining us, we've been looking at some critical issues in the Nigerian polity, and with me today is Mr. Tochukwu Okorie, who is a policy analyst and a public affairs commentator, and on my left, Mr. Nana Oketa, who is a legal practitioner here in Abuja and a former member of the Nigerian Youth Parliament. We're going to take a short break. Please do stay with us because we have another guest on this show. See you soon. Welcome back on this special edition of Discuss Nigerian African Free Press Television. We've been looking at some critical issues in the Nigerian polity. Basically, a statement made by President Muhammadu Buhari while he was in New York, saying he was going to take up the position of being the petroleum minister while he appoints a Minister of State for Petroleum. And with me to further this discussion is an amiable gentleman, Mr. Clem Agui, who is a president of Move On Nigeria, a writer, a columnist, and a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to the show. Now, we've looked at this issue from a legal perspective where it has been made and defined that the president cannot, while in office, take up an official position. So we've talked about it as well from a political point, but it would be good as well that we take your perspective on this show. What do you think about the statement made by the president about taking up the position of the petroleum minister while he appoints Minister of State for Petroleum?
You see, the statement from the president was rather unfortunate, and I suppose he might have taken that lead from former President Obasanjo, who decided on his own, in violation of the Constitution, to appoint himself Petroleum Minister. And why he held that position for the period of his presidency, we know what happened in that very department. The decay and the rot that we have witnessed in the oil industry, in the oil and gas industry, the lack of growth in that industry is because the president, who is the chief executive, sat on that very department, making it difficult for the National Assembly, that has an oversight function on the ministry, to even engage that very ministry. The accounts were never audited, nobody could ask questions. And I wasn't surprised that Major General Buhari, retired, is doing that same line, because former President Obasanjo has been frequenting his office, visiting him, giving him all kinds of advice, and I'm sure that he has taken one of those bad advices, which clearly showed disdain for the Constitution, because the Constitution is very clear on what the president can do and what he cannot do. And I think that it is not within his power as the President of Nigeria to also appoint himself a cabinet minister. If he wants to do that, maybe he should resign as president, so that Vice President Osibajo will become the President of Nigeria and then appoint the Minister of Petroleum.
Yeah, one of the prerequisites, obviously, for being a minister is having to submit yourself to the Senate for screening. And people are beginning to ask the question, is his name, the president's name, in the list he submitted to the Senate president the other day?
Obviously, his name is not there. And obviously, it's very much likely that he will not submit himself to the National Assembly for screening. And obviously, it is clearly that even if you become the petroleum minister, he will not even have the time to run the ministry. And it is also obvious that if he becomes the Minister of Petroleum like he wants to be, it would also make it difficult for the National Assembly to oversight that very ministry. Because one of the jobs of the National Assembly is to provide oversight function on each ministry and government agencies. So would they be inviting the president from time to time to come and give answers to the ongoing in the ministry? So the answer is no.
He can say he's the commander-in-chief, and you know he can. These are ministerial positions. Obviously, he can always delegate or maybe decide even to scrap the Ministry of Petroleum Resources.
He doesn't have the power to scrap the Ministry of Petroleum Resources because these are constitutional. These are provided in the Constitution. He doesn't have such power to do that. That he's the commander-in-chief does not make him the dictator-in-chief or the tyrant-in-chief of Nigeria. He's the commander-in-chief as provided by the Constitution. And what he has said and what he's about to do is clear contempt and violation of the Constitution which he swore to uphold. And I will urge him to respect the Constitution of Nigeria, because the only way this country can move forward is for those people who think they are powerful to begin to respect the law. Nobody is above the law, not even the president of Nigeria.
Yeah, and then looking at still going the line of ministers and no ministers, you know, yesterday he's finally submitted his the list to the Senate president, and then over time we've been hearing rumors of a name like the ex-governor of River State, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, being on the list, and some of those. And then looking at the track records of Mr. President, people say he's incorruptible. Looking at his track records, does it mean it has taken like 4 months for him to come up with names such as that?
Well, it clearly shows the incapacity to lead from the point of the president. And again, he has not submitted his list to the National Assembly. He submitted a partial list. So it is not even a total list. So we may not even have complete ministers by December. Because what he has submitted in 4 months was a partial list. And I don't think there's any rocket science in appointing ministers. He's making everything look like a very huge joke. And at the end of the day, like rightly pointed out, the people that he appointed are not the saints. We're expecting him to appoint some angels and saints. But he's still appointing the same old politicians, like Fela would say, who spoiled Nigeria before. Look at Amechi's case. It clearly shows that he's trying to compensate the boys that stole their state resources to push him into power. If people like Amechi, whom the River State pro panel has clearly indicted, found wanting in many areas, are today being pushed forward as ministers, it gives little hope. Look at the way people are being recycled. All those people, all those characters who ordinarily in a civilized countries should not be in public life. It's the same people he has taken 4 months to select, to pass on to the National Assembly, to come and become ministers. It clearly shows that Nigerians still have to be patient, have to wait for that change to come, because I don't see anything good coming out from our current situation in Nigeria.
Yes, we'll continue waiting. We continue waiting. It looks like a long wait, but I hope we don't wait indefinitely. If you're just joining us, we've been discussing critical issues in the Nigerian polity. Basically, a statement made by President Muhammadu Buhari in New York the other day that he's going to take up the position of being the Minister of Petroleum while he appoints a Minister of State for Petroleum. And with me in the studio, we've been discussing this with Mr. Clement Agui, who is a president of Move On Nigeria, a writer, a columnist, and public affairs analyst. Thanks for coming on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Please do visit our website at www.africanfreepress.com. Follow us on Twitter at African Free Press and like our Facebook page at African Free Press. From me, Leo Oketa, is a happy independence to Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.